What's going on, everybody? It's Elder Jacody Owens. Today, I want to share a dream that I had a couple weeks ago. Um, Not even a couple weeks ago, maybe about a week and a half ago. Um, so the dream starts. I'm in a movie theater, and I'm sitting with my family, my oldest boy, my two babies, my wife, and we're watching the screen. And on the screen is a picture of the moon, and the moon is, rotating on its axis the way it should normally, right? And while I'm looking at the moon, I while we're all looking at the moon, I look over and it's like some type of professor, somebody who's supposed to know about the moon, standing in the aisle. And he's standing in the aisle and he's watching, just watching, just paying attention. Then all of a sudden, the moon gets eclipsed by the Earth coming in between the moon and the sun. And so from there, I remember a teaching that I heard in real life. But in the dream, I remember this specific quote that I heard recently that I actually knew of from years ago. I actually did a song with the whole idea in it, and basically, I wanted to tell my son that the moon represents the church, and the sun represents, of course, the Son of God, Jesus Christ. And when the world gets in the way, when the world blocks the light from the sun, then we no longer reflect him. We just become a dark moon. It gets eclipsed. And I wanted to say that to my son. But before I got to say it to my son, the eclipse ended. But as the eclipse ended, the moon was rotating backwards on its axis. It was going the opposite direction. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, this is weird. Then I look at the professor and he's like, what's going on? He doesn't understand what's going on. Then the next thing you know, the moon explodes. It explodes and like all this magma starts rushing towards the screen in the theater. And I look at the professor again. The professor runs. He gets out of there. Professor gets out of there, get light, right? So as the magma's coming towards the screen, I'm thinking like, whoa, wait a minute. If that's happening on the moon right now, then that's coming towards the Earth. That's coming towards where we are. So I'm like, I'm holding my baby boy, and I'm like, son, talking to my oldest son, repeat after me, repeat after me. And in my head, I'm thinking that, we're going to make sure that there's nothing left, anything within the last few minutes that we may have done or thought that is unpleasing to God. So I'm like, repeat after me, and I really feel that way. Like if I'm at somebody's dying bed, you know what I mean? I say this to my friend all the time who's not really a believer, and I try to and keep him encouraged. I say, if I'm at your bedside, I'm like, look, yo, repeat after me. You know what I mean? Because even the thief on the cross, at his last moment, had nothing to lose. He said, Lord, remember me. Right? So I really believe that. So, um, I got a little sidetracked there. So before we even started repenting, the screen goes white. All right? And there's this energy coming out of the screen, and it like locked everyone in place. And it's almost like the feeling like if you've ever encountered a spirit, an evil spirit, and when they're in the room, their presence, it's almost like you can't move. Or if they say that whole quote unquote witch riding your back or sleep paralysis, it's like that type of feeling, like you're woke, you're cognizant, but you can't move. Um, so that came over the whole crowd. And then next thing you know, a gray alien face popped up on the screen, huge. It took up the whole screen, and it was just looking out over the crowd. And as it was looking out over the crowd, in front of the auditorium, in front of the theater, more gray aliens of different sizes, maybe about 7 to 12 of them came out. Some had smooth faces, some had bumpy faces, like somebody beat them up, and there's just lumps all over. But and they were still gray aliens. And so what happened from there? A voice came out, just like came out of the speakers, like, we'll fix you all, we'll take care of you. And then that voice said, all of you who can leave, leave. You know, so basically, some people were released from this hole and were told to leave. You know what I mean? And so many people were running out, running out. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, I'm there with my baby boy. I don't see my wife and son anymore, and I'm sitting in the chair, and I got up. Like I struggled to get up, and it was like labored. Like I struggled to get up, but I stood to my feet. But I'm thinking, I'm holding my son. If I try to get out of here and somebody tackles me or something goes down, I don't want my son to get hurt. So I sat back down. And and again, I don't know if anybody's experienced that as well. Like if you've encountered, if you're seeing a vision or you encountered a demonic spirit, and uh, what it used to be with me, I used to get the whole paralysis thing where you can't move. But then after a while, the closer I got to God, the more I began able to push through that feeling as they try to attack, but and literally move. And so, excuse the allergies, are driving me crazy. So I sit back down and I look over and I see some familiar family members, and I'm like, hey, hey, I'm calling a person's name. I'm like, come get my son, go get my son. And this person gives their child to somebody else that's a familiar family member, and comes around to sit next to me and has a gray vest on, and they take my son and put him up under this vest, and they sit down next to me. And so I'm like, and as I'm noticing, people are holding their arms out, even though people are paralyzed, right? The people that they're going to fix are holding their arms out to get shots in their arm or whatever. And I'm thinking like, nah, that's not going to be me. They're not going to get me like that. It's not going to happen. They better not even come over this way. And I noticed that the aliens did not approach me, right? And I believe that these gray aliens are demons. I believe that in real life, in and out of the dream, I believe that these grays are demonic entities. So, but they didn't approach me, you know, rightfully so. But what happened was another family member of mine, a cousin, a little distant, but still a cousin. I didn't think no harm would come from this person. Comes up the aisle and comes around behind me and sticks me with a needle, right, like I guess would be the kidney area. And I'm like, you sneaky samurai, right? And I actually said sneaky samurai. Like, you sneaky samurai. But after the fact, I got up, grabbed my son, and I'm going over to the door, and I'm just worried, and I'm worried about my son. I'm like, what about my son? You know what I mean? And then somebody else was saying that, once you put him down, he's fine. He'll be able to walk. He'll be able to do all this. It's fine. This doesn't affect him. What they're doing is not trying to affect him. And that was the end of my dream. Now, I have quite a bit of interpretation to this dream, but not all of it. But I'll share it. Maybe you'll have some ideas. Maybe God will put something on your heart, right? But of course, the looking in the theater, being in the theater was a position of the world, right? Like a spectator. I believe that my church is not considered a church. We're small, and we do services in houses. We go to different ones' houses. We do services, and we've experienced where people didn't even want to invite people to have service with us. Even when we had a building, it wasn't a church edifice. It was like a little office building that we fashioned to be a church. And people wouldn't want to invite people over because, we don't have a church edifice and things of that nature. So I don't think the world would consider my church a church. So, but we're in the place where we're in the world. We're looking at what the main church is doing, right? It's going in the right direction. The world eclipses the sun. The world gets in the way. The sun gets eclipsed, and the church goes dark, And then once the church lights up again, it's going in the opposite direction. And when the church begins to go backwards, here comes the judgment. It reminds me of the scripture when it says there'll come a great falling away first, and after that, you know what I mean? It's like as we look at that falling away, we know that we're closer and closer to judgment, right? And we know about the deception of these quote unquote alien entities, or the things that's going on with CERN. You know what I mean? And then when they appeared, they seem to have all the answers. We know when the Antichrist appears, he'll seem to have all the answers, all the solutions to our problems. It was just interesting. And when these demons were going around poking people, these aliens were going around giving people these shots, they didn't approach me. You know what I mean? They had enough sense not to approach uh, a child of God, yet and still what it was it took a familiar family member. It took somebody who I wasn't expecting to infiltrate and to hit me with this injection. You know what I mean? This pseudo healing, this pseudo solution to this problem that I was having of being semi paralyzed by their doing. You see what I'm saying? But I just wanted to share that dream. There's always a lot to look at when God gives us dreams, and it's just a blessing to be able to see how it correlates with Scripture, just to see what to be reminded of what time we're in and the things that are coming our way. Um, there's still some more that I don't quite understand about the dream, but I won't even put that out there because maybe God will put it on your heart. You know what I mean? But prayerfully, that dream's been a blessing to you, as it's definitely been a blessing to me. All right. If you have a prayer request or testimony, feel free to leave a comment below or shoot me an email at jacodio@gmail.com. Until next time, be blessed.